The night she left, the city did not slow down for my pain. Traffic lights blinked red and green outside my apartment window. Horns argued below, and somewhere a radio played an old soul song that refused to die. I sat on the edge of the couch with a cold cup of coffee, staring at the door like it might apologize and open itself. It never did. Her silence was louder than any fight we ever had. No shouting, no tears. Just a calm decision, delivered like bad weather. She said she needed more. More stability. More future. More proof that loving me was not a risk. I nodded like a man who understood, even though my chest felt split open. My name is James Carter, born and raised in a concrete neighborhood where dreams learn early how to duck. I had built my life on effort and loyalty, believing those two things could outlast doubt. I worked long hours managing a small logistics office downtown, ate takeout burgers at midnight, and saved money in an envelope labeled Next Step. She used to laugh at that envelope. Said it was cute. Said I was serious in a world that preferred shortcuts. When she packed her bags, she did not take everything. She left behind a blue sweater on the chair, a cracked phone charger, and the echo of promises we never wrote down. I told myself I would call her the next day. Pride told me to wait. Fear told me I was already too late. That fear had roots. Flashbacks came without warning. Our first meeting outside a busy grocery store, arguing over the last slice of apple pie. Late nights walking past street vendors, sharing fries, planning trips we never booked. She once told me she trusted me because I never pretended to be bigger than I was. That memory burned now because pretending suddenly felt like survival. Days passed. Friends checked in, offering advice wrapped in jokes. My coworker Brian said I should get back out there like feelings were coats you could replace. My sister Denise brought over home-cooked food and watched me eat in silence. Everyone meant well. Nobody knew what it felt like to be evaluated and found lacking by the person you trusted most. At work I moved on. Instinct. Emails answered themselves. Meetings blurred. I caught my reflection in the glass walls and barely recognized the man standing straight while collapsing inside. At night, the apartment felt too honest. The walls remembered her laughter. The floor remembered her footsteps. Even the refrigerator hummed like it was waiting for instructions she used to give. I checked her social media once, then twice, then stopped. The smiles were already back. New restaurants. New people. New energy. It was clear she believed she had escaped something heavy. I wondered if I was the weight she thought would drown her. What she did not see was the other story forming quietly. Not a comeback. Not revenge. Something slower and harder. A pressure building where grief used to sit. I felt it during early morning walks past closed shops. I felt it when I chose water instead of beer. I felt it when I stopped explaining myself to people who only wanted headlines. Still, I was not strong yet. I missed her voice. I missed being chosen. I missed believing that love was enough. But beneath the missing, something else waited. A question I was not ready to answer. What if her leaving was not the end of me? What if it was only the beginning? I did not know then how fast a life could turn. The city was watching, the streets recording every quiet step. Somewhere ahead waited truth, betrayal, and a test of pride I could not imagine. I only knew sleep would not come easily, and tomorrow would demand choices. Choices that would expose loyalty, cost comfort, and rewrite my name in ways she would never predict. That night was only the door, not the fall. And I was already standing closer to fire than fear. With no idea who would burn first, asterisk by the second week after she left. Sleep became optional and silence became dangerous. The city still woke me every morning, sirens arguing with dawn. Livery trucks coughing smoke, neighbors living lives that didn't care. I was breaking apart quietly. I learned fast that pain doesn't announce itself. It waits. Then it speaks when you least expect it. I started walking before sunrise. No headphones. No music to soften thoughts. Just my footsteps on cracked sidewalks and the smell of frying bacon drifting from early diners. I would pass the same corner cafe every morning. The one where office workers grabbed coffee and egg sandwiches wrapped in brown paper. Once, she had dragged me in there, laughing, insisting their pancakes tasted like sundaes. I avoided it now, crossing the street like memory was contagious. At work, my boss, Mr. Howard, noticed the change before anyone else. He was an older man, calm, sharp-eyed, the type who didn't waste words. One afternoon, after a meeting where I barely spoke, he asked me to stay back. "You still with us, James?" he said, not unkindly. I told him yes. He studied me for a moment, then nodded like he didn't fully believe me, but accepted the answer anyway. He had built his own life from nothing. I wondered how many times he had been left behind before he learned how to stand alone. That night, I finally checked my phone messages again. There was one from her, sent days earlier. Not an apology. Not regret. Just closure dressed as concern. "I hope you're okay. I think this is best for both of us." Best. That word felt like an insult wearing perfume. I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted the message and sat on the floor. Back against the couch, breathing through the ache like it might pass if I stayed still enough. Flashbacks attacked without mercy. Her hand in mine during rush hour. Her voice teasing me for overcooking steak. The night she cried about her father's expectations and how I promised to always be steady for her. I had believed consistency was love. She believed love needed visible results. The next morning, something shifted. Not strength. Not healing. Just refusal. I refused to beg. Refused to explain myself again. Refused to let the ending be defined by how broken I felt. I signed up for a late-night certification course. It's downtown business operations. Logistics planning, the kind of work nobody applauds but everybody depends on. The classroom smelled like dry markers and burnt coffee. Most students were older, tired, chasing second chances. I fit right in. There was a woman named Claire in the class, sharp-tongued, always early, always focused. She wasn't interested in my story, and that was refreshing. We exchanged notes, not emotions. Respect without curiosity felt like oxygen. Meanwhile, rumors reached me through mutual friends. She was telling people I lacked ambition, that I was comfortable being average, that she needed someone who moved faster. Each word stung, not because it was true, but because I had trusted her with my truth. Loyalty, once broken, doesn't bleed loudly. It poisons quietly. One Friday night, Brian dragged me out to a bar downtown. Bright lights, loud music, laughter that felt rehearsed. I nursed a soda and watched people pretend they were fine. Across the room, I saw her friend Maya. She noticed me too. We locked eyes for half a second, long enough for judgment to pass, short enough to avoid conversation. When I got home, anger finally showed its face. Not explosive, focused, clean. I sat at my desk, opened a notebook, and wrote a list. Goals, deadlines, skills, savings targets. No quotes, no affirmations, just work. Weeks turned into months. My body changed first, then my routine, then my confidence. I wasn't happy yet, but I was solid. The man she left was dissolving quietly, replaced by someone sharper, more deliberate. Still, one question haunted me during late nights. Did she ever doubt her decision? Or was I already erased? I didn't know that answers were coming. Not gently. Not fairly. The city was preparing a collision I couldn't see yet. A truth buried beneath her calm smile. A truth that would test whether growth was real or just another mask. Because some endings don't reveal their meaning until the past comes knocking, uninvited, carrying receipts. The first real test came on a Tuesday I almost skipped. Rain pressed against the city like it had something to prove. I was tired from class the night before, hands sore from typing, mind fogged by numbers and schedules. I considered calling in sick. Old James would have. The version for me now put on his jacket and left anyway? That decision mattered more than I knew. Halfway through the morning, Mr. Howard called an emergency meeting. One of our largest clients had pulled out overnight. No warning. No explanation. Just a short email and a canceled contract that left a hole in our quarterly plans. Panic sat heavy in the room. People whispered numbers like prayers. As the discussion dragged, something clicked. A pattern. A detail everyone else missed. I spoke up calm, clear, precise. I suggested a workaround, a new route, a cost adjustment based on a vendor I had researched during my night classes. The room went quiet. Mr. Howard looked at me differently then. By the end of the day, the damage was contained. Not erased, but controlled. As people packed up, Mr. Howard asked me to stay behind again. "You've changed," he said, not smiling. "Whatever you're dealing with, keep dealing with it." He offered me more responsibility. A chance, not a promotion yet, but a door cracked open. I walked home under the rain, feeling something I hadn't felt in months earned pride. That night, I cooked for myself. Steak, potatoes, simple food. Real food, I ate slowly, not rushing through the moment. It felt like reclaiming territory. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Hey, James. It's Maya. We need to talk." I stared at the screen longer than necessary. My instinct said ignore it. My curiosity said listen. I replied once. Short. About what? Her response came fast. About what really happened. We met 2 days later at a quiet diner near downtown. Vinyl seats. Black coffee. A place where conversations stayed low. Maya looked uncomfortable, twisting a napkin like she wanted to disappear into it. She didn't waste time. She didn't tell you everything, she said. I stayed silent. There was someone else. Not officially, but close enough. The words landed without drama. No explosion. Just confirmation of a suspicion I had buried. She explained how it started late nights, shared complaints. The usual lies people tell themselves before they cross lines. She thought you wouldn't survive it, Maya added. She said leaving clean would be kinder. Another word dressed as mercy. I thanked Maya and left before she could say more. Outside, the city looked sharper, louder, more honest. I walked 4 blocks, letting the truth settle into its place. Betrayal didn't crush me the way I expected. It clarified things. That night, flashbacks rearranged themselves. Arguments that never resolved. Distance explained. Her sudden confidence after leaving. It all lined up. Instead of rage, I felt relief. I hadn't been lacking. I had been loyal in a world that mistakes loyalty for weakness. Work accelerated after that. I volunteered for difficult projects. Took late calls. Learned systems most people avoided. Mr. Howard noticed. So did others. Respect doesn't announce itself. Shows up in how people listen when you speak. Claire from class started sitting next to me. We talked more now. About work. About pressure. About choosing progress over comfort. Still no flirting. Just alignment. It was enough. One evening, as I left the building, I saw her across the street. She stood under a streetlight, phone in hand, laughing at something someone said on the other end. She looked good, confident, free. For a second, the old ache tried to rise. Then she saw me. Her smile faltered. Just a fraction, enough. We didn't speak. The light changed. The moment passed, but something had shifted. For the first time, I realized the balance had changed. She wasn't watching a broken man anymore. She was watching uncertainty, and uncertainty is terrifying. I didn't know yet how deeply our paths would cross again. I didn't know how much the truth would cost her, or how far I would be tested before. Redemption showed its face, but one thing became clear that night as I walked home. Shoulders straight, step steady. She thought leaving me would destroy me. She had no idea what she had started. Asterisk. Success doesn't arrive with noise. It sneaks in quietly, testing whether you're paying attention by the 4th month. My life no longer looked like the wreckage she left behind. It looked structured. Mornings were scheduled. Evenings were purposeful. Weekends were no longer empty. They were invested. The city still moved fast, but now I was moving with it, not chasing shadows. Mr. Howard officially put me in charge of a new operational unit. Nothing flashy, just responsibility, pressure, and expectations. Exactly the kind of growth that separates talkers from builders. My paycheck changed. My title changed. More importantly, confidence did. Yet something else was happening beneath the surface. People started asking about me, not loudly, not directly. Quiet questions passed between coworkers, industry contacts, even mutual friends. The kind of curiosity that forms when someone notices you didn't break the way you were supposed to. One Friday evening, Denise invited me to a small family gathering. Nothing special. Fried chicken, baked mac and cheese, cornbread still steaming. Laughter filled the apartment. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was pretending to be okay. I was okay, then someone mentioned her name. It slipped into conversation casually, like it didn't carry weight. My cousin asked if I had heard she was moving up fast at her new job. Denise shot him a look. I waved it off. But inside, something stirred. Not jealousy. Not longing. Awareness later that night, alone again, I sat by the window watching city lights flicker like choices. I thought about the version of me she left the man who waited, explained, softened himself to be accepted. That man felt distant now, almost foreign. Flashback hit hard. The last argument we had before she left, she accused me of being too calm, too patient, too slow. Said I didn't fight hard enough for things. I remembered telling her stability mattered more than noise. She laughed like that was something small. Now, stability was exactly what was lifting me. The following week, something unexpected happened. Claire invited me to lunch. Not a study session. Not work talk. Just lunch. We ate at a downtown spot known for burgers and thick milkshakes. She talked about her past failed partnerships, mistakes she owned without shame. I listened. She noticed how I listened. "You don't interrupt," she said. "That's rare," I shrugged. "People tell you who they are if you let them." Not flirtation. Recognition. Meanwhile, the city had its own plans. I ran into her again, this time, unavoidable. A networking event downtown, clean suits, controlled smiles. She stood near the bar, scanning the room like someone measuring their options. When she saw me, surprise crossed her face. Then calculation. She approached first. "James," she said, like the name tasted unfamiliar. We exchanged polite words. She complimented my work, my posture, my confidence. Everything except my eyes. "I heard you're doing well," she added. "I am," I replied. Simple, true. There was a pause. She searched for something validation. Maybe regret, possibly. I offered neither. The conversation ended without closure, without drama. But her shoulders stiffened as she walked away. That night, I realized something important. People don't miss you when you're gone. They miss you when you're no longer accessible. Still, the real storm hadn't hit yet. Truths have a way of resurfacing when timing favors honesty. And somewhere between ambition and pride, a reckoning was forming. Because growth attracts attention. Attention attracts questions. And questions demand answers someone had been avoiding. I didn't know that soon I would be forced to choose between revenge and dignity, between proving a point and protecting my future. And when that moment came, the city would be watching again. Not to see me fall, but to see who I truly was. The call came late, the kind that arrives when defenses are down. I had just finished reviewing reports, the apartment quiet except for the low hum of traffic outside. My phone buzzed once. Unknown number again? I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. "James," her voice said when I answered. Softer than I remembered. Careful. I didn't respond right away. "I know this is unexpected," she continued, "but I need to talk. In person, need that word again. Once it would have pulled me in without resistance. Now it simply hovered between us, waiting for permission." "About what?" I asked. She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than words could. "About us." about everything. We agreed to meet 2 days later at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground, public safe. I told myself it was curiosity, not emotion, that made me say yes. The truth sat somewhere in between. When I arrived, she was already there. Same posture, same controlled energy. But something underneath looked different. Less certainty, more urgency. She stood when she saw me, smiled, then stopped herself. "You look different," she said. "So do you," I replied. We sat, ordered coffee. Small talk filled the space like dust. Then she got to it. "I made a mistake," she said quietly. I watched her hands. They trembled slightly. She talked about pressure, about expectations, about wanting more and being afraid of waiting. She didn't say his name. She didn't need to. I already knew. What mattered was what she didn't say. She never said she was sorry for the betrayal. She was sorry it didn't turn out the way she planned. "I thought leaving would push you," she said. "I didn't think you'd disappear." There it was. The confession wrapped in honesty too late to matter. Flashback flooded in the night she packed her bags. Her calm smile, her certainty that she was stepping forward while I stayed behind. I felt no anger now. Just clarity. "You didn't leave to help me," I said evenly. "You left because you wanted something else." She looked down. Didn't deny it. "I see now what I lost," she said. "You were solid. I just didn't value it." I leaned back, letting silence do its work. Around us, people laughed, typed on laptops, lived ordinary lives. The world wasn't waiting for our resolution. "I'm not the same man you left," I said finally. "And I'm not interested in revisiting old versions of myself." Her eyes searched my face. For warmth? For familiarity? For a door still open? "You don't miss me?" she asked. I considered the question honestly. "I miss who I thought we were," I answered. But that wasn't real. That was the moment her confidence cracked. Not loudly, quietly. The way buildings fail before anyone notices. She reached across the table, then stopped. Pulled her hand back like she'd touched heat. "I thought you'd be angry," she said. "I was," I replied. Then I got busy. We finished our coffee. No promises. No future talk. When we stood to leave, she looked smaller somehow, not weak. Just human. As I walked away, my phone buzzed again. A message from Claire. "You free for dinner tonight?" I smiled without thinking. That night, as I sat across from Claire at a quiet restaurant, I realized something important. Healing isn't about replacing people. It's about meeting yourself without apology. Claire didn't need to know my past to respect my present, and that mattered. Later, walking home alone, I passed the same cafe I had avoided months earlier. The smell of pancakes filled the air. I went in this time, ordered breakfast for dinner, ate slowly, smiled once. The city lights reflected in the window. My reflection looked back steady, grounded. I didn't win because she came back. I won because I didn't need her to. And still, the story wasn't over. Because redemption often demands one final test, one that measures whether growth is real or just convenient. That test was coming soon, asterisk. The test didn't come from her. It came from life, wearing a familiar disguise. 2 weeks after our meeting, Mr. Howard called me into his office again. This time, the door closed behind me with intention. He slid a folder across the desk, his expression unreadable. "We're expanding," he said. "New division. New leadership." I opened the folder slowly. The numbers were serious. The responsibility heavier than anything I'd carried before. It was a promotion reel this time. The kind that changed trajectories. The kind people waited years for. "There's a condition," he added. I looked up. "We need someone to relocate temporarily. Downtown hub. Long hours. High pressure. No room for distractions." I understood immediately. Growth always asks for proof. I accepted without hesitation. The next months moved fast. Faster than pain ever did. My days started before sunrise, and ended long after the city lights blurred into one continuous glow. I ate clean, slept light, and learned to manage stress like currency. Every decision mattered. Every mistake echoed. Some nights doubt crept in quietly. Not about her. About myself. About whether I was building something meaningful or just running from memory. On those nights, I reminded myself why I started. Not to prove her wrong, but to prove I wasn't disposable. The new role put me in rooms I'd never entered before. People listened when I spoke. Deals closed because I was prepared. Trust grew because I didn't overpromise. Respect followed consistency. One evening, after a long strategy session, a colleague pulled me aside. "You're steady," he said. People noticed that. Steady. The same word she once dismissed. Outside of work, my life simplified. Fewer people, stronger boundaries. Claire remained present, not demanding, not distant. We talked honestly. No games, no assumptions. When I told her I needed space to focus, she respected it without question. That respect mattered more than affection. Then, unexpectedly, the past tried again. I received an email from her. Longer this time, carefully written. She spoke about growth, about reflection, about timing. She said she admired what I had become. She asked if there was any chance, any at all, that we could talk again, without expectations. I didn't respond immediately. I reread the email the next morning, then again that night. Not because I was tempted, but because I wanted to understand why it no longer controlled me. The truth was simple. She hadn't left because I was. Weak, she left because she didn't know how to grow alongside someone who moved quietly. I replied with one sentence. I wish you well. I've moved forward. No anger. No explanation. No invitation. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in months. Weeks later, at a company event, Mr. Howard raised a glass and announced the success of the new division. My name was mentioned. Applause followed. I stood, nodded once, sat back down. Pride settled in. Not loud, not desperate. Earned as I looked around the room, I realized something powerful. The man she thought would fall apart had become someone others relied on, not because of heartbreak, but because of discipline. Outside, the city pulsed as always. Same streets, same noise, different man walking through it. I wasn't healed because time passed. I was healed because I chose to stay present when it hurt, to build when it was easier to blame, and to walk away when ego wanted applause. There was one final moment still waiting. One last confirmation that the story had come full circle, and it would arrive when I least expected it. The confirmation came disguised as coincidence. It was a Saturday afternoon, bright but cold, the kind of day the city uses to remind you it's still in control. I had just left a community business forum downtown, one of those events where ambition shakes hands with reality. I wasn't speaking there, not officially. I was listening, taking notes, staying sharp. As I stepped onto the sidewalk, I heard my name. Not shouted, not urgent, careful. I turned. She stood a few feet away, hands in the pockets of a long coat, eyes steady but uncertain. For a second, neither of us spoke. The city filled the gap with passing cars and footsteps. I didn't expect to see you here, she said. I didn't expect to be, replied truthfully. We walked together without planning to, heading in the same direction, like strangers who once shared a map. She talked about her work, her recent move, the changes she was trying to make. I listened, politely, respectfully. But something had changed in how I listened. I wasn't searching for meaning anymore. At a crosswalk, she stopped. I heard about your promotion, she said. People talk. I nodded. I've heard. There was a pause. Not awkward, honest. I want to say something, she said. I don't want you to fix it or soften it for me. I waited. I thought you'd fall apart, she admitted. I thought leaving you would destroy you. There it was. The sentence that had lived in the shadows of every quiet night. The belief that had followed me like a challenge I never accepted publicly. And when you didn't, she continued, I didn't know where that left me. I looked at her then, really looked. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't evil. She was human, confused by her own choices, surprised by their consequences. "You thought my strength depended on you?" I said gently. That was never true. Her eyes softened, not with regret, with understanding that arrived late. "I see that now," she said. The light changed. People crossed. Life moved on. "I won't ask for another chance," she added. "I just needed you to know I understand what I lost." I nodded once. That was enough. We said goodbye without ceremony. No promise to keep in touch, no dramatic exit. It's just two people returning to separate lives with clearer sight. I walked a few blocks before stopping at a food truck on the corner. Ordered a hot dog with mustard and onions. Ate standing up, watching steam rise into cold air. Ordinary moments have a way of feeling sacred when you've earned them. Later that evening, Claire and I met at my place. No planning. No pressure. We cooked together, simple pasta, salad, garlic bread, music played low, conversation flowed without effort. At one point, she looked at me and asked, "Are you okay?" I didn't hesitate. "I am." I meant it. That night, lying awake, I thought about how close I had come to becoming a version of myself I would have resented. Bitter, loud, performative. Instead, I chose patience, structure, self-respect. The city outside kept breathing. Sirens rose and faded. Somewhere, someone else was being left behind, believing it was the end. I wished I could tell them what I had learned. That loss doesn't define you. Reaction does. That the quiet rebuild outlasts the loud collapse. And that sometimes people who walk away aren't removing love from your life. They're removing the blindfold. I slept well that night. The final chapter didn't need fireworks. It needed truth. Asterisk, the city didn't celebrate endings. It absorbed them. Monday morning arrived the same way it always did. Subway doors closing, coffee spilling, people chasing time like it owed them something. I stood at my office window high above the street, watching traffic coil and uncoil below. From up here, everything looked smaller. Problems, people, even the memories that once felt too heavy to carry. Mr. Howard had retired quietly the week before. No long speeches, no emotional farewell, just a firm handshake and a nod that said, "You're ready now." His replacement was younger, sharper, ambitious but cautious around me. That caution wasn't fear. It was respect earned without noise. By mid-morning, I was called into a meeting with the executive board. New contracts, new territory, expansion beyond the city. My input wasn't requested anymore. It was expected. As I spoke, clear and controlled, I felt a strange sense of distance from my past. Not denial, not erasure. Perspective, the man who once waited by a silent phone. Would not recognize this room or the authority in my voice. After the meeting, I stepped outside for air. The cold hit my face, sharp and honest. Down the block, a familiar cafe buzzed with life. I went in, ordered black coffee and a breakfast sandwich. The cashier smiled like nothing in the world was complicated. I liked that. I sat by the window and let my thoughts slow. Flashback came one last time. It's not painful, just present. The night she left. The certainty in her voice. The belief that my world would fold without her. I realized something then that I hadn't fully accepted before. She didn't think leaving me would destroy me out of cruelty. She thought she was the center of my strength, and I let her believe that. Outside, a man crossed the street holding his child's hand. A woman laughed too loud on her phone. Life moved forward without asking permission. That was the lesson. Later that evening, I met Claire for dinner. No announcement, no labels, just intention. We talked about future plans, not fantasies, but logistics, time, space, growth, the real stuff. She didn't look at me like a project or a savior. She looked at me like a partner. Trust feels different when it's mutual. As the night settled, we walked through the city streets, lights reflecting off wet pavement. She slipped her hand into mine, not claiming, not testing, just present. At my door, she paused. "You're not running anymore," she said. I smiled. I'm not. After she left, I stood alone for a moment, keys in hand, listening to the building breathe. The silence didn't scare me now. It belonged to me. I thought about all the versions of myself that could have existed. The one who begged, the one who blamed, the one who stayed small to feel safe. None of them survived. Instead, there was this, a man who learned that loyalty starts with self-respect. That love isn't proven by endurance alone. Walking away from what breaks you is not weakness. It's wisdom if she ever looks back again. She won't see a man she outgrew. She'll see a man she misunderstood. And that's not my burden to carry. The city lights dimmed outside. Tomorrow waited, indifferent and full of opportunity. I turned off the lamp, calm settling in my chest like something earned. She thought leaving me would destroy me, but it didn't. It revealed me.